So let's go through some questions that I have found to be very useful in the class. If I encrypt data with my public key, who can decrypt it? Only I can decrypt it because I have my private key. So if something's encrypted with my public key, only I can decrypt it because I have the private key. If I encrypt data with my private key, who can decrypt it? Anyone with my public key. So if I encrypt something with my private key, anybody with my public key could decrypt it. So why in the world would I do that if everybody could decrypt it? Well, I would use my private key to encrypt data so that whoever is going to receive it knows that it came from me. Because I'm using my private key, they know that it actually came from me, which is authentication, and then along with authentication goes non-repudiation. So again, if I encrypt something with my private key, anybody can decrypt it, and there's no confidentiality there because anybody with my public key can decrypt it. Now, if you encrypt data with your public key, so if some type of data is encrypted with your public key, who can decrypt it? Only you, because you have the private key. So I can write you a message, encrypt it with the public key, send it over the line, and I don't have to worry about anybody being able to get the message, decrypt it, and read it, because it can only be decrypted with your private key. Now, what if I encrypt data with your private key? Who can decrypt it? I should never have your private key. That was a trick question. Only the individual, the owner, should have their private key. So when asymmetric is new to people, these concepts get very confusing for them, which way it goes. So make sure that you understand if something's encrypted with the public key, what actually decrypts it and vice versa. Now, if I encrypt data with my public key, what type of security service is provided? That would be confidentiality. Because let's say, so if something's encrypted with my public key, let's say you write a message and you encrypt it with my public key, you send it over to me, and I'm using my private key to decrypt that message. Only I can read the message because I have the private key. So that's confidentiality. Now, what if I encrypt data with my private key? What security services are provided? If I encrypt something with my private key, then what's provided is authentication and non-repudiation, because anybody with my public key can decrypt it. So that does not provide confidentiality. And if somebody encrypts data with your public key, what services are provided? Confidentiality, because only you have the private key to decrypt it. So it may seem as though I'm a little repetitive here, but I've taught cryptography for so many years that I know where people kind of get hung up. So I don't want to go quickly over this. And again, if some of this stuff seems confusing, make sure you get it. And also, you may get it now while you're going through this course, but you have to understand it when you take the test and when you're out in the industry. So right now, you may have it all mapped out, but make sure down the road you have these core foundational pieces understood.